Welcome to Women Working in Wealth from the American College Center for Women in Financial Services. Join us as we showcase unique career opportunities and dispel myths surrounding the financial services profession through conversations with industry leaders.
Welcome to another episode of Women Working in Wealth. I'm your host, Lindsey Lewis. Today we have a very special guest for our listeners. We will be chatting with Ka'Neda Bullock. Ka'Neda is a certified financial planner professional, MBA, AIF, APMA. She is also the founder and CEO of Master Plan Investment Group, one of Investment News' top 40 under 40, a retirement plan and ESGK advisor, and a financial speaker. Wow, so impressive. Ready for our conversation? Welcome to the podcast, Ka'Neda.
Thank you, Lindsey. Thank you. I'm really excited to be here with you.
Oh, I am thrilled to have you. I met Ka'Neda at an Investment News 40 under 40 event, and I knew I had to have her on the podcast. You are just a shining star in this industry for sure. Well, so for our listeners, we love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your career journey thus far.
Sure, absolutely. So I have a really unique story in that my background wasn't in finance. We have not known wealth managers as far as my family and background goes, but I am excited to know that this industry is so really open and wonderful in that you don't have to have that background, right? So I first learned about financial services, investment management through an internship during college, my sophomore year. I was a part of the student government the first time, in my young adulthood, and I met a trustee member that said, anyone interested in finance and wants to have a paid internship, let me know, we can talk more about it. And immediately I said, absolutely, I have a financial obligation to meet for my summer work and also help with my family. So I immediately said yes. And I'm really thankful and grateful for that opportunity because it turned into not just an internship, but a great mentorship, a wonderful relationship, and just allowing me to explore a field and industry that had been so quietly kept in the past, but it was just one that I truly love and enjoy and try to provide that access to for others as well. So I had an internship with Capital Group in New York and asked for another internship at the end of that summer because I knew that I had just touched the tip really of what I could potentially learn. And it was a space where I was invited to come back. And from there, I continued to grow and learn. And here I am today.
That's really amazing. And I think it's so important for us to acknowledge the exposure, right? Mm-hmm. Being in those universities and offering those internships can really make a difference in people's career journeys. So you mentioned, you touched on it about kind of your family and your upbringing. And so I'd love to hear about your money story and how it's shaped you both personally and professionally.
So my money story probably begins as a child. My mother had been really the main provider for our family, and I always watched her budget and manage her expenses and work, and we supported, we helped as well. And it always taught me to just be mindful of asking for opportunities, creating your own opportunities, but at the same time, being very aware of the responsibility of helping and providing for your family. And I knew that because of all of the activities we were in, she had to have a flexible schedule. So I knew that either I would choose to work for a company that provided that flexibility to me, or I wanted to own my own firm to provide the flexibility to myself and to others. So money is a currency, but time is also a currency. So I really look at the two quite closely. And when I think about how I value money, how I value my resources, time is at the top of the list, quite frankly, it's at the top of the list. So as I grew and became an adult, had different experiences around the world, I saw that culturally, there are also very different nuances in how individuals understand or value, et cetera, money. And I was thankfully able to pick up on different pieces of those various cultures I had access to and exposure to, and form my own thoughts. It wasn't just from my upbringing, but I was able to, as I grew and had different experiences, weave those into who I was and what I thought about money as well. But today, quite frankly, the peace and happiness and joy and seeing my children and my husband and family happy and enjoying just laughter and life by far is one of the most important things. And money is there, but it's definitely not number one anymore.
I love how you were mindful of the opportunities and the balance of money and time and understanding the dynamics between the two. And it sounds as though you understand how your upbringing and your culture has really affected you over time. Before we get into what you do in retirement plan space, I'd love to hear about your what I call work-life integration, because I don't think work-life balance exists, but your work-life integration of starting your own business, having a family, like what does that look like in the shoes of Ka'Neda?
And I love that term first. So let's stop there because it's definitely one that you hear about all the time. And I feel that there's a beautiful cookie cutter answer that when you hear it, you're just thinking, that's not me. I don't know who fits that. So I tend to say, just thinking about my even career journey, I had time in California and I'm from New Jersey. I lived in California. I loved my time there and experience there. And work life, I forget your exact term, but the adjustments that I made in that singlehood and that no motherhood at that time was so different. But I cherish those moments and I talk about them today as well. So just in today's kind of space, I have two daughters, Bella and Madison, 5 and soon to be 7. They're both in the same school, which is great because they at one time were in 2 different schools. They're in T-ball, they started tennis, and now they want to join swimming. So that's just the children. And I have a husband of 10 years. I have a lot of great friends. I'm a daughter, sister. So think about all of those things. And we're all managing a lot. There are times that I'm the worst at it. And there are times that I think I'm the best and I should write a book about this. And that's okay. And I feel that there are always days that I think, oh, I should have done this. And then I just step back and say, well, I'm doing my best. And that's all I can do. I feel that this has been taken some time to get here. There was times when I was studying for my CFP, which I'm sure you understand, and my life was studying. I didn't go many places. Social life was almost non-existent. I did the best that I could as a mother at that time, but I knew it was a short-term sacrifice. And thankfully, I have a great partner, my husband, Eric. So he would, daddy daycare, and they would go to Sesame Place for the entire day so I could study. But that was a season, that was a phase, and we did what we needed to do. So I think that there is also a beautiful blend. It's like an art work, right? It's a beautiful blend of work taking priority, my self-care taking priority, my children, and it always changes. And I think when you look back, it's perfect, but when you're living through it, it's not.
It seems like you've taken that mindfulness to that aspect, and you really have taken a step back and acknowledging this is the best that I can do. And that really helps with that integration. Mm-hmm. So my next question for you is, what does it mean to consult retirement plans? Like, describe your job for people that don't understand that space of financial services.
Sure. So when I work as a 401k or retirement plan advisor, I am one of the core team members on the team. So there's your 401k vendor. So it could be the vendor that you log on for your app, or when you're logging on to view your investments, that's your 401k record keeper is the term. And then there's an advisor like myself. I work behind the scenes just to make sure that there aren't any investments that are underperforming, to make sure the fees are in alignment with what the plan's goals are and the types of investments or companies that you have. We're looking at the service level. But one thing that's very important is how are the participants, so everyone that is a part of the team, a part of the staff, how are they doing? Are they participating? Do they understand the value of that plan? How can they maximize this tool to help them not only retire successfully, but how do they use this tool to navigate the priorities that we all have well before retirement? So sending our children to college and saving for a rainy day and having enough set aside if we want to buy a home and other things, caring for our elderly parents. So there's so many other priorities that come before retirement. But my job is to really provide all of the participants with access to the right resources and tools to make sure that they can retire successfully and manage life well. And the last individual is the business owner or the organizational leadership. So the CFO, CEO, or HR director. So we all play really important roles, but I absolutely love what I do and can impact so many families when we join the team as an investment advisor for the plan.
We really bonded over that when we chatted because I worked in a very similar role previously, and how impactful that participant education can be, because you're talking about people that might have garnished checks to the C-suite and all the different terminology and the varying goals and objectives, and that you can have such a meaningful impact to a broad group of people, because making a couple fee adjustments in a 401k plan could reduce fees for thousands of people. And so it's such important work. My next question for you, because oftentimes we wear many hats, but how does your work differ from when you're working with institutional clients like 401ks, 403bs versus working with individual clients? So affluent individuals that have needs for their financial plans.
Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting. I always balance the two, but recognize everyone has a goal, right? And our mission is to enrich the lives of our client and their legacy. So whether that's a institutional client that wants to impact their legacy at the organization, they want to leave their mark saying, I not only was able to save and retire successfully, but I've set up really strong systems and processes and professionals to help my team and staff do the same. That's a legacy. We all have a legacy, whether it's personal or professionally. And when I work with my individual wealth management clients, family wealth management clients, they live and are always thinking about their legacy as well. Their children, their grandchildren, their community. And for example, I sit on a board. That's a legacy. I spend hours doing this work. That's a legacy. So we recognize that wealth management, although it's seemingly singular in our conversation, it's much more broad. And that really resonates with both groups, institutional and individuals or private wealth management clients. The key difference, I would say, is that you have more emotional conversations and they get intense sometimes. More emotional conversations with the private wealth management clients. I, at times, talk about very sensitive subjects when it comes to children or marriages, second marriages, and children from different blended families. So it's definitely one that is a space where you just have to be patient and give grace and allow families to talk through things, because money is a sensitive subject as well. And not one family does it the same as another. So back to my logo, it's the variation of each family is different. So there's no picture perfect plan, but everyone has your own master plan.
I think that's so important to think through goals and legacy and how they tie together, because with businesses, they also have a goal and a legacy that they want to provide. And as individuals, it's also important. Let's take a quick break.
At the American College Center for Women in Financial Services, we're promoting the advancement of women in the industry through research, education, and awareness. Become one of our Women Working in Wealth ambassadors, keep up with our latest news and events, and learn how you can help break the bias at womencenter.theamericancollege.edu.
Let's get back into our conversation with Ka'Neda. So I know that financial education and financial well-being is really important to you. So maybe tell us a little bit more about the work that you do in that space.
So the financial education and wellness types of conversations, I feel that everyone's talking about that. And it's sometimes I'm thinking, oh, again, another one. But I think it's so refreshing at times as well, because there have been many communities that have not had these conversations at the dinner table. And now they can. So both in my volunteer work as well as my professional work, I'm committed to making sure that more conversations about financial education are taking place with young children and students that are older in high school, college, and with adults that may have been a part of a generation where money was a taboo subject. It was not polite to think about that. In some spaces, it was not polite to bring up money. So financial education for me looks very different in different situations. For my daughter and young children that I talk to about money, it's just about what types of things do you like? What do you like doing? How do you manage your resources? And what's a good company? What's a company that you don't? So it's very much to their level, but we intentionally bring the conversation to all groups. And in my work with my daughters go to Stewart, it's an all-girls school. I annually volunteer during their Women in Business Week to talk to students about investing and managing their money. And I feel that as women, and in their case, young students, they must learn today. And if they don't know, they have a wonderful opportunity going to college or after school to learn more. And I know that there are generations of women who were raised not to really take charge of their investments and ask questions, but I'm committed to really changing that, because no one person has to do it all. Both partners have to be responsible for having a conversation about what's going on with their money.
Yes, definitely. Both partners need to be
Yes.
involved, have
Yes.
those conversations at
Yes.
earlier ages,
Mhm.
and be a learner today, right?
Right.
Start today. And if you don't know, it's okay to ask. And I think that's
Mhm.
really important.
Right.
So you love what you do, obviously. So how can more women get into the space that you work in? So we call it defined contribution or defined benefit, retirement plans. Us financial advisors like to have like 7 names for the same thing. But how do women get into the space that you work in?
So I have a mentor, which I was assigned to, I want to say it was almost 2 years ago. It was during the pandemic, but I'm a part of NAPA, which is a National Association of Plan Advisors, and the ARA, the American Retirement Association, is the main organization. But I find that their work in Women in Retirement Work, WIRC, is doing just that. So inviting women to come to conferences, learning about the industry, and not just in one part of it, but it's in HR and actuarial evaluations and advising and plan participant in education. So there's so many ways that you can be involved in the industry of retirement plans that I feel there's no one can really say, well, that doesn't really fit what I like to do. There's so much variety there. And what I often start with is that you can help. It's almost like a match, right? Your 401k, you contribute 3%, your company contributes 3%. Working with a retirement plan is like the ultimate match. I have one client, but I'm impacting so many families. So doing and recognizing that allows other women who want to have a greater impact on individuals' financial education, individuals' financial security. It's a great industry to do that. And the first step is just asking, where am I committed? What's my passion? And then from there, there's plenty of ways to get involved and learn more. And I think the Napa Association and Work, WIRC, are two great places to start. And we are all charged with our conferences to bring another woman to the next session, one or two. But the idea is that it doesn't matter if you're familiar, but you're interested in learning more. And there's a lot of growth that we need that needs to take place in that industry.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important to bring another woman along. And even if they don't really know that much, we all at some point didn't know what a mutual fund was. And some of us may still not know what a mutual fund is, but we can slowly learn over time. I am going to ask you a slightly challenging question here. So, as a woman of color, have you found this industry to be accepting? Like, walk us through what it's like as a woman of color in the financial services space.
Sure. So in financial services, it's a bit different than retirement plan services. So as a CFP, right, I recently attended an event and met the new CFP board chair, a woman of color, yay. And it was just great to be able to recognize that about 23% of all CFPs are women. And now I think it's about 4 or so are Black women. And as a woman of color, I'm committed to increasing that number. And it's important because it just brings other perspectives into our conversations and helps other families with various backgrounds. It doesn't mean it has to be a family of color's background, but it brings other examples of how my journey has fed into my success and helps families overall succeed. So I would say my entry into financial services was definitely supported by a woman. And I didn't recognize how unique that was until I was really a part of the industry and recognized that it wasn't diverse. I was introduced by one of the few female women money managers, and she managed a huge mutual fund, and I didn't know how unique that was until I took a look around and said, oh, look at all the pictures under the portfolio managers. They're not very diverse at all. And that's just gender. But from that point, I knew that I had a bit of freedom. There wasn't necessarily a path I could say, I'm going to do it just like that person. So I could craft my own strategy and craft my own journey. But I did take examples from people that didn't look like me, didn't sound like me, didn't identify with my background or who I was, but that didn't stop me from asking them all the questions that I wanted to know about their journey. So I think being able to have mentors that looked like me definitely helped, but there weren't many at all, especially in the beginning. And I believe now there are much more, there's more support systems that are built institutionally that I think is important, because the informal ones, some people may not be very outgoing and feel comfortable asking, but now that there are organizations saying we're intentionally going to create this support system, it helps alleviate the stress on those that don't feel comfortable just asking. So for me, I don't mind. I just go and ask. And if I don't feel like I'm a part of a conversation, I'll stand there for a while and just ask good questions. And just being that assertive is really important. But I find that just knowing that you might have a very different path, but I'm able to compete and do just as well as anyone else was something that was really core to me. I will do it differently, but I will be able to be great in my definition of great and really help others is what I'm committed to do.
I appreciate so much that you taken it by the reins and I love this idea of crafting your journey, right? It puts ownership back on yourself and that you can really shape the trajectory of where you're going. And
Mhm.
don't be afraid to ask. My mom always says, if you don't ask, the answer is no. So just ask.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Wise woman.
Wise woman. Oh,
Mhm.
goodness. Yes. So this career is so vast. So why do you think it would be a great place for women to find a career here?
Mhm. And I'm glad you asked that question. I was going to add one other key component is the reason I chose ownership as opposed to working in a wirehouse or a bank setting. I'm an independent advisor for a reason. And I knew that just as we were talking about institutions and providing that support system, I wanted to be able to hire those that may have been overlooked because they don't have the experience that a typical, financial advisor in training has, or a typical ex person has. So I really wanted to say, hey, my narrative didn't look, may not have had that resume either, but I'm killing it. So that doesn't mean someone else can't do the same. So I think there also has to be this sense of, yes, we need those advocates in those institutional settings, but we also need the advocates that can give those initial opportunities to give that talk about you can do it too, and your journey can look very different. So kind of answering your question now that you just asked about women in this environment, I think we definitely have a lot to give, so much to give. And I find it interesting to see how much clients reveal, and even just introductory conversations. They may not be a client yet, but they're just ready. Families are looking for support and they want someone that they can trust, that no one's perfect, so that they can relate to. And I feel that women have a very unique way of kind of providing that peace and that space for people to share honestly. And I know that having my CFP designation and all of the work that I do to make sure clients are informed and know about their investment strategy in the markets, et cetera, all that's really important. But at the end of the day, they want to make sure that we're taking care of them and that if something happens, they know who to call. And the markets, we can't control them, but we can control our process, our strategy, our proactive nature. And I think all of those things are very easy for women to do.
Just naturally good at having
Yeah, right.
conversations.
Mhm.
Yes. And caring and being supportive. I
Mhm.
think it's so beautiful how everything's come full circle for you because you received that internship or got that internship in college and now you're giving back and doing the same and rethinking what meritocracy might look like or skills or experience when you're hiring to perhaps change the trajectory of someone else's career. So I think it's so important for people that are listening that they think about ways to perhaps hire differently than they
Mhm.
have in the past. So this has been a real treat. And I would love to get your thoughts. If you could go back to your younger self, what would you tell Ka'Neda at age 19 or 20?
Wow, let's see, where was I at that age? So if I could go back and tell my younger self or give any advice to my younger self, I would say to continue to explore and continue to walk down the unbeaten path and that it really will provide all of the fulfillment that you think it will. So I think sometimes we second guess ourselves. And I was definitely a trailblazer and thinking, oh, I'm just going to try it. Let's see how it goes. But sometimes I would remember, okay, I do need to get this. I need to have that grade. I need to have this job. But then that sometimes contradicts with my gut. And I would say having a nice reminder that it'll work out, just continue doing what you're doing would have been helpful. A few less stressful days.
I love that. Keeping that exploration mindset and kind of blazing new trails, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think of it differently. Well, it has been a real treat chatting with you today. Question for our listeners: where can they find you? How can they stay in contact with you post listening to this podcast?
So we are all, as you know, social media is makes it very easy for us all to connect. We're at Master Plan Investment Group on LinkedIn, and Ka'Neda Bullock on LinkedIn as well. We're on Facebook. And in addition to LinkedIn, I have an Instagram account, I should say, Ka'Neda Bullock _CFP. But I am available via our website, masterplaninvestmentgroup.com, and you can also call us. But we work with clients and institutional clients that really care about their organization and their legacy. And there are some that just focus on the kind of the account balance and nothing else. And that's just not the right person for us. So one thing I've learned is you can't be everything for everyone, but you serve who you're meant to serve very well. And our phone number, 609-751-0242, also is a great way to reach out to us. We're looking forward to meeting you all and those that have been able to listen.
We can't wait for you to enrich the lives of many clients. Thank you so much for your time, and
Thanks.
We appreciate all the work you're doing.
Thank you, Lindsey. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us, and please leave a rating and review. To keep up with future episodes, subscribe to our show and follow us at our Women Working in Wealth social channels. This has been Women Working in Wealth, brought to you by the American College of Financial Services.